Don Poyer along with Jim Hendrick here on the shores of the Ohio River for Indiana's Governor's Cup. And here are now the drivers for Heat 1A. Jerry Hopp out of Seattle driving the Miss Carl Yarling. Recently changed the name just this morning, as a matter of fact. We'll talk about it later. Tom Deeth, the driver of the Light All-Star. First time in '84 that he's driving in a race. Ron Snyder will be driving the American Speedy Printing. That's the host boat owned by the community of Madison, Indiana. Jim Kropfeld and the Miss Budweiser qualifying at just over 123 miles per hour. And George Johnson of the Miss Executone Telephones, a fine performance in qualifying at over 124 miles per hour. Again, the rundown now for Heat 1A. The Executone Telephones and your qualifying speeds on the right. The Budweiser, American Speedy Printing, again, the host boat. Miller Lite All-Star with Tom Deeth aboard, and the Carl Yarling, that's the U-20 at 106.6. Here's some of the previous winners. Back in '83, the Budweiser with Jim Kropfeld winning it. On back to the Squire Shop, the Budweiser twice, and the Atlas Van Lines with Bill Munsey in '79. And now the flying start under the Madison Milton Bridge. Here we go with Heat 1A. In lane number 1, it's the Miss Budweiser with Jim Kropfeld aboard. In lane number 2, it's the Executone Telephones with George Johnson aboard out on those rocky river out there. High rollers, and they're having to negotiate those as they go into the west turn. On the outside is the Executone Telephones, as I said. First to accelerate out of that very tight turn on this 2.5-mile course is that boat, the Miss Budweiser, with Jim Kropfeld of Cincinnati, Ohio aboard. First place to the Budweiser. Second place to the Executone Telephones behind the rooster tail of the Budweiser down these very long straightaways. Look at that boat bounce around out there and those very strange rollers that come off the shore and the shallow water here. They have some sandbars underneath the course in different locations, making the water behave rather strangely at times. The Budweiser, a very heavy boat, a good boat to have on a course like this. First place to the Budweiser. You see the lead Jim Kropfeld has over George Johnson and the Executone Telephones. Completing lap number 1 is the Budweiser, coming down ahead of George Johnson. That man right there in that brand new Lucero design and built boat. Speed for the Budweiser, 109.8 miles per hour, 106 for the Executone Telephones. Third place going to the Light All-Star with Tom Deeth aboard. Not terribly high speeds, but it's because of the turbulence of the water here. Real choppy going down into that turn. The rollers come off the shore and back into the course. The Budweiser, as I said, a very heavy boat and can negotiate these turbulent waters probably better than most of the boats out on the course. Jim Kropfeld in first place, but look at George Johnson. Now the boat totally covered by the rooster tail of the Budweiser. Third place to Tom Deeth. Happy to be out there. Uh-oh, Ron Snyder of the American Speedy Printing got dead in the water down in the west turn. You see the boats go by him now as the Budweiser holds on to first place. They go past the bridge. They'll come under it again. That's the Madison Milton Bridge, a familiar sight in unlimited hydroplane racing here in Madison, Indiana. Better than 96,000 fans watching the Budweiser coming down the main chute, completing lap number 2, slowing down just a bit, as a matter of fact. Let's get a time for the Budweiser. First place, 105.5 miles per hour. Second place, the Executone Telephones. So they are slowing down due to the choppy waters. The Budweiser with those powerful Griffin engines, and you see the skid fin digging in on the left side of the boat, holding on these very tight turns. The diameter only 690 feet. Normally they're around 12 to 13, even 1,400 feet in diameter. Third place to the Light All-Star, the turbine-powered boat, getting its first action experience here in 1984, qualifying at better than 116 miles per hour. But Jim Kropfeld is in control right now. Looks like he's spread it out a little bit ahead of the second place boat. That man rocking and rolling along is George Johnson and the Executone Telephones. The Budweiser under the bridge, back into that east turn as he comes around, flying around that turn. You can see underneath the boat. Oh, he's got a tight turn there to get past the American Speedy Printing. A great job of driving by Kropfeld to avoid what could be a disaster. He has to go inside. Executone Telephones went way wide, and of course that meant that the Budweiser picked up some valuable time. In first place is the Budweiser with Jim Kropfeld of Cincinnati, Ohio. Look at him rolling around, the spray coming up over the cockpit. There's his lead over the second place boat, the Executone Telephones, and George Johnson. Johnson, a former offshore racer, so he's used to rollers like this in choppy water, but not in an unlimited hydroplane anyway. The Budweiser again coming into that west turn in lane number 1. A lot of major repairs done on that boat, of course, after that accident that took place in New York, up at Syracuse while they were testing, but they got it repaired in time to come back and win last week in Evansville, Indiana. There's the lead again for Jim Kropfeld and company. Bernie Little, of course, owns this boat, the all-time winningest owner, and look who's gone dead in the water. That's George Johnson in the Executone Telephones. He was in second place. Obviously, some engine problems there. Second place now goes over to this boat, the Light All-Star with Tom Deeth aboard. Third place to the Carl Yarling Special, the U-20 with Jerry Hopp out of Seattle. Second place, though, to that man, Tom Deeth, in the turbine-powered Light All-Star out of Houston, Texas. It's owned by RB Bob Taylor. And this man, of course, Jim Kropfeld, working for Bernie Little, the all-time winningest owner, with 47 wins after their victory in Evansville, that being last week. And here's your winner for Heat 1A, the Budweiser, Jim Kropfeld, another 400 points. Second place to the Light All-Star, 300 points, his first of the year for Tom Deeth and Company, the Light All-Star. And here are the standings after Heat 1A. The Budweiser picking up another 400. Light All-Star, great showing in its debut, 300 points. The Carl Yarling with third place. Heartbreak for Executone Telephones and American Speedy Printing. Both failed to finish. Let's go down to Jim Henrik now and the winner of Heat 1A.
Well, Don, they didn't go over 110 mile an hour in their victory in their Miss Budweiser. What's the matter, Jim? The water rough?
Yeah, the water's pretty rough out there. I think that's actually rougher than it was last year when we ran our final heat.
That would have to be, with your heavyweight boat, the heaviest, I believe, in the field, a little advantage for you.
It's to our advantage, but it sure hurts the poor driver.
Well, let's hope we don't hurt anybody today. And Jim Kropfeld, of course, has a victory here in Heat 1A. Back up to you, Don.
All right, Jim, we've got Tom Deeth with us, who came in second place. The water looks incredibly rough, especially at the start and in the turns out there.
Well, our game plan really was just to get on the outside, start off the clock, because this is the first heat we've been in all year, and see how the boat reacted to the, to the wakes of the other boats. And we're kind of pleased that we finished. This is a new experience for the Light All-Star Racing team, just getting started and finishing in the same heat. So
this must remind you of Detroit a little bit.
Yeah, but the water is awful rough, especially up by the bridge. There's that sandbar up there, and coming out of turn 1 and 2 here, there's that sandbar there, and it always is rough there, so you got to watch those spots.
And again, back into that east turn with the Budweiser and Jim Kropfeld doing an outstanding piece of driving to avoid the American Speedy Printing there. The skid fin clear out of the water on the left side of the boat. He somehow avoids the American Speedy Printing and goes on to victory. Jim Kropfeld and the Bud. We'll be back with Heat 1B in just a moment.